Welcome back to part two of our views of on relationships as a single friend. If you haven't already, go check out part one because we start from where we left off from the last one. So go check it out before you listen to this one.
Especially if you wanna see more of our, what's it called? Our background about all this and everything. Very informative. I thought it was a good episode. But anyways, we're gonna get into
Same.
part 2 because we have a lot to talk about.
Yes, so we have one more misconception that we didn't get to the last episode, and that is we don't want to be set up. And I feel like I will let Liz go first with her experience of being set up because hers is more recent than my examples. So take it away, Liz.
First off, I wanna preface this by saying, because I know the person's gonna be listening, because she's a real one, we love her. Um, no hate at all, like genuinely, no hard feelings, no hate. I love you. I love you. You know who you are. But just like, I don't know. I feel like when you're set up, you're kind of just like thrown into something blindly. And as someone who has like no relationship experience, really, it makes it even more stressful or like more like, I don't know. I feel like there's an added pressure without there being an added pressure of like, oh, like what if? Like, I hope that makes sense. And then yeah, I can give a little backstory. So, like, my friend, she's tried to set me up with this guy, and then this other situation, I wouldn't really consider a setup, but like, kind of low key a setup with, I'm gonna call it an informal setup because it wasn't a full on setup or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like it just adds like a little bit of a pressure, and also as someone who like I don't know, who's never been in a relationship too, it's just kind of like you don't know like what you're looking for to. I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I'm gonna let Kennedy take it away now, and maybe I'll piggyback off her because I don't think I made sense.
And I feel like, well, I don't want to assume for you, Liz, but like just in general, I feel like in those type of like setup situations, I feel like it can be even more awkward if you're not attracted to that person. Cause I feel like for me personally, I equally gotta be attracted to your personality and your looks. Cause if I'm not attracted to your looks, then maybe that's just a friendship. Like, I don't know, that may be like a shallow take, but that's just my opinion.
No, because Kennedy, I knew once you talked, I was just gonna piggy off back off of you because you brought some points. So sometimes I feel like I don't know. Okay, this, like Kennedy said, it might be a shallow thing, and I've said this to my friends before, and they all agreed with me. So I feel like it's not that much of a shallow thing, but I feel like people who say I'm kind of going off topic, but like I'm not. I swear I'm not. I'll circle back. People who say like looks don't matter at all, or like it's like the emotional connection, attraction. I feel like that is some BS. I will say it right there because I feel like when you're attracted to someone at first, has to be a physical attraction or like connection type thing. Like it's not just the emotional or the personality and all that kind of stuff because like you don't really know them. Like something intrigued you. Yes, and they might have been funny, and that might have been like a little plus or whatever, but there had to be a physical attraction. And people who say that, like, oh, I don't care about looks at all or whatever, you are lying to yourself and you are lying to all of us. So I'm gonna circle it back to the setup now. I promise I'm making sense here. What was I gonna say? Oh, there we go. If you've noticed on the podcast, my train of thought be all over the place. But what I was gonna say was I feel like when you're set up, unless you're clear about what your like type is or like what you're looking for and all that kind of stuff, sometimes it's kind of like you don't find the person attractive. So that kind of adds like another added pressure of like, oh, but like looks aren't everything. But like I said, there has to be a physical connection of some type to me. I don't know. Call me crazy, but that's what I gotta say on that.
Bruh, I had something to say, but I forgot. Dang, I feel like it was gonna be good too. I remember it because I feel like I kind of feel like that with my situations, even though they weren't really like setups, more like people pushing me to talk to people. But it's just like I feel like they don't really take in account like your type necessarily. They just kind of like go off what they like and what they would think you like, but it's like really not what you're into.
Yes, and I think, like, one thing about setups, at least in my situations, I don't wanna call them a full-on setup, but it was definitely, like, a pushing towards the other person? Like, "Oh, you would vibe with this person." But like I said, you might vibe and yes, don't get me wrong, like, once you get over that physical attraction, if there is no emotional connection or like you don't like the personality, that's the determining factor. But like initially, it's the physical attraction, or whatever. I don't know if I finished my train of thought, so we'll just let Kennedy finish off on this misconception of ours.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share like my two stories real quick, and this is gonna be like a lesson. Don't do this to your friends. Okay, they're really short. These are both high school. These are both like this is all the people involved are like no one that I'm like friends with now. So it's like fine to talk about. So I don't gotta do no disclaimers. But one thing, it was like very weird. This is like why I mentioned the thing about like people try to set you up with people maybe that they want or something like that. So one time I was at cheer practice and we were just like talking, and these people were very much, like having a boyfriend was like number one. Like they just wanted a boy, somebody to talk to, yada, yada, yada. And they tried to set me up with this person. When I tell you, okay, I'm not going to bash looks, but let's just say everything about him, looks and personality wise, is going to be a no for me. Yeah. When I tell you, I've never expressed interest in this guy, but like one of my friends at the time was like, "Oh yeah, he has had a glow up, like he's super cute, whatever." They're like, "You should try to get with him." And y'all, when I told you, or when I tell y'all, they made me add him on Snapchat, and it was just like, ugh, it was just so like weird because I was like, I just like. Cause I was just like, I felt peer pressure. Like, I did not want to do that at all. So, like, don't push your friends. And it was like so annoying because then like a couple days later, I was at a sleepover. And my friend texted me. She was like, "Ooh, our plan is working." And I was like, "Huh?" And so one of his friends basically texted her, was like, "Oh, I heard one of your friends is into blah blah blah." And I was just like, "Yep." I cut it from there. I said, "Tell him that is not a thing because it truly is not a thing." I don't know what was said after I added him on Snapchat. But and like I really wish I could just be that person who didn't care and really put people on blast. But like just know that this person is like the devil incarnated, like truly one of the worst people ever. And then another time, there's this boy who I used to know from like elementary school, and like he like weirdly like and randomly hit me up on Snapchat. And it was just like very weird. He was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so cute, blah, blah, blah. Like, do you want to FaceTime? Yada, yada, yada." And, of course, I told my friends at the time about it. And I remember I told the group chat too, but I was just like, I was not interested at all. Like, first of all, he was 1 year younger than me. And I did not think he was cute. I was taller than him. Yeah, it was just not the vibe. And so I just like never entertained it. And he was like very weird, like, I don't know, very weird vibes. And so like after that happened, one of my friends at the time, he started Snapchatting her too, like the same kind of vibe. And then I remember she was like, "Are you sure you don't want him?" I'm like, "Girl, I never did. I never did." So that was that. So those were my little situations. Take your lessons from those. Do not set your friends up.
Unless your friend really wants it, and they're like, "Oh, like, your friend over there," if they tell you, then you can continue it. That's just my 2 cents. Okay, now we're gonna get into, the main focus of this episode. So we have, like, 2 main things to talk about, and our first one is our fears going into a relationship and what we don't like about today's dating culture. And we have some hot topics to unpack here. So, my first one is the talking stage. The talking stage. It is so confusing. I don't know about y'all, but like, I don't know. I feel like the talking stage is that awkward stage, and then sometimes it can evolve into more, but like, there's not a label on it or anything yet, and it's just to me, it's so confusing. Like, why is it a thing? Like, I don't know. I guess back in the day, it was when they were, like, courting you. I feel like that's the equivalent of the talking stage, but even then, I feel like courting, it just, like, is different from the talking stage. So, like, specifically what I think is confusing about it is when you unless both people are, like, direct, but, like, when you're moving on to, like, oh, like, almost being in a relationship, but you're not in a relationship, or where you're moving from, like, getting to know each other to both of you liking each other. Like, unless it's explicitly said, I feel like it's so confusing on what even is this? Can it even be considered a situationship? Is it just 2 friends talking? Is it 2 people who like each other talking? Like, what is it? It's so confusing to me.
Yes, I feel like talking and like situationship culture has definitely like done some detrimental effects to our generation. Cause like Liz said, what is it? I feel like it's just people's way to like act like a couple without putting a label on it, which is just so stupid in my opinion. It's just like, why are we playing games? I think it's just for people to just have somebody there until they find really who they want. And I feel like, because you mentioned courting, and I'm just like, why can't we go back to that? Because I feel like back then when our parents were dating and stuff, it was like you're courting, you took people out to dates, and it was like just that, like just dating around, seeing what you like. But now people are just so like, oh, are we talking, yada yada yada, doing basically being a couple and just like, oh yeah, they're my situationship. And I just feel like it's a waste of time. And that's one thing that I do not like.
And going off of that, with, like, the talking in a situation, like, both of those things, they could be so intertwined, and, like, to one person, it could be like, "Oh, we're just talking, like, we're getting to know each other." To one person, it's like, "Oh, we're talking," but it's more of a situationship, like, it's gonna be something else. Like, unless there's clear communication and direct communication, I feel like you could both be on completely different ends or whatever, and also, like, I know when you're talking, a lot of people, they'll, like, talk to other people because like, you're not official, but to some people, that could be considered cheating, like, I guess, moral of the story, communication is key, but it's just so confusing, especially when you're, like, first getting into all of it, you know, or like, feeling your way through and seeing what you like and what you don't like, it can be so confusing.
Yes, I was gonna say that it seems like communication is a big problem when it comes to talking in situationships. Um, my first like this is more of a fear instead of like dating culture. I'll like compare or put my first two together, but like rejection and getting cheated on. Oh my god, getting cheated on. What is that word? Rejection and getting cheated on slash getting played, because I feel like I've just seen so many horror stories of just like girls like just they think everything's fine and then they end up like the guy that they had like no signs of ended up being the biggest piece of trash. And I'm just like, if that would happen to me, I would literally be crushed.
Yeah, I have to agree with Kindy. I feel like that is just such like I feel like that's a fear for everyone, but especially if you've never been in a relationship because you're like, you're getting comfortable and then that happens. Like, bro, come on, you know? I don't know. That would just really, especially if you've never been in a relationship and that's the first relationship that you're in and that happens. Yeah, no. I would need a couple months to recover. Hopefully no longer than that, but so my next, thing that I don't like about today's dating culture, which kinda goes into, like, the talking stage one, but not being direct. I feel like so many people, they just be, you know, playing out, seeing how things go, and they're not direct to each other, or, like, they'll beat around the bush. Like, I've had an instance where somebody was, like, asking me out, and they weren't, like, direct about it, I felt like. I felt like it was like, are we getting to know each other? Are we going on a date? Like, what is this, you know? It was so confusing to me. I am just someone who doesn't wanna be confused, and I feel like when people are beating around the bush, it just adds to the confusion all the time. So I don't like that about today's dating culture. Although, I definitely think that this is depends on the person, like, it's not the whole culture together, but I just feel like as a generation, we're just not very direct about things, so then that plays into, like, the whole dating scene or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like our culture right now has a really big like being nonchalant problem. And it's like I'm over that. Like people just want to be nonchalant so bad in any type of relationship, whether it's like romantic or not. I'm like, that is not for me. Like I'm more of a direct person, I feel like at times when needed. And I like to face like any type of problems, situations head on because I don't like to be confused. Like just tell me everything straight up. And I feel like that's the only way to have a effective relationship in any type of way. My next fear slash what I don't like about today's dating culture is trying to find someone who's okay with my lack of experience, because I feel like I've seen stories on TikTok about just kind of like mixed like people's mixed views on it. Just like some people are like, I would never be with someone like especially like our age, even though like we're young, but like people like see like having no experience is kind of like a red flag, and maybe that's like a personal like something is wrong with that person. And then some people like are okay with it, but then also I know some men be very very, very, very weird about that. And then they think like, oh, they're gonna be the person that's like all your first, and then they just like dip and leave. So you also got to be careful about that from what I've seen. So that's like another thing. And then I feel like my next one can kind of go into that is men just wanting a physical connection. Because what I said about the men that just want to take all your first and leave, like some men will legit just lie to women's faces just to get a little something, something. And it's actually sad. And I just want to avoid that at all costs.
What Katie said for both of those, going off the first one, I feel like it's always like I mean, I've never gotten to the point where it's been like, like we talked about like, oh, like your lack of experience, like where the lack of experience came up and everything. But I will say, I feel like how do you bring that up? Like, how does that just casually come about conversation, you know? And then just like seeing how like they would react to certain things and everything, I think definitely very telling. Based on the reaction, will definitely tell me if I'm staying or leaving, you know? But I definitely think that that is like a fear that's just like in the back of your head, especially when you're like getting to know someone or like yeah, getting to know someone, making those connections and everything, like, that can just be a back of your head fear. And then, the physical connection, I definitely feel, especially in, like, today's dating culture and dating scene, hookup culture definitely plays into that, and how, like, everybody just wants to, like, a little physical connection, a little one-night stand type thing, and, like, if you're not into that stuff, like, finding someone who is also not into that, and then, like, being okay with that and not just being focused on the physical can definitely be a big fear, especially with how big hook up culture has grown to be. Like, as someone who, is still figuring things out, that can be very, very intimidating if that, like, comes up or whatever. I don't know if you wanna add anything, Kennedy, before I get into my next one?
Yeah, just one thing. I didn't even like think about hookup culture. This is kind of like unpopular, but I don't want to say like I don't agree with it. I just personally would never participate in it. I wouldn't judge anyone as long as they're making safe choices, I guess. But I just think it's just counterproductive. And I know there's like a whole side like, oh, like like look at it as a way to be empowering for women. But I feel like in the end, I feel like really not. I feel like if anything, men are benefiting either way. But I don't know. That's just my personal opinion.
We'll have to do another deep dive episode on that topic. But my next fear is just like I feel like this is someone if you've never been in a serious relationship, this is always like your number one fear of not finding someone. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not over here like dying because I'm not in a relationship. Like, I am perfectly content with who I am and what I'm doing. But don't sometimes, I'd be like, oh, this would be cute to do with a couple, or like this would be cute to do with a partner or something, like things like that, like, oh, I wish this, or like, oh, just random thoughts that sometimes hop into your head. And just like the fear of like not finding someone, which at the end of the day, like if that's the path that's for me, then that's the path that's for me, like can't do nothing about it. But just that like back of the head because you don't know if the single life is for you forever or if it's not. Like, what if I don't find the person, But that's just always a fear that's in the back of your head.
Yeah, that's a fear for me as well. And I try to like think about like, okay, like we're still so young if you think about it, and we still have lots of places to go, people to meet, people to see, experiences to have. So, I just like to think that I'm like my life is just kind of beginning, even though it really hasn't started at the same time, if that makes sense. So it's like I still have a long ways to go. I hope for the both of us that we don't end up single. Okay, I don't want to say lonely because we're not. No, no, no. But I just know. Okay, I'm gonna put it out there that we're both gonna find someone, and they're gonna be exactly what we want.
Yes, Kennedy, manifesting for both of us. And I feel like in general, that can sometimes that like thought randomly come in your head. It's not like it consumes me or anything. Like I rarely think about it unless I'm like thinking about like other people's timelines. And like Kennedy said in part one, everyone is on a different timeline and has a different timeline and everything. But sometimes you could that thought just pops in when you're like seeing other people's lives or like relationships, especially people who are closer to you. So like in my situation, on my mom's side of my family, all of my cousins that are, like, older than me are in a relationship. all of them are in a relationship. Like, if you go from in order of the cousins, all of them are in a relationship, and then it's me, skips a little generation, then the, like, 4 generations under me, they're all in relationships too. I'm like, "Bruh, like, what the heck?" But everybody's on a different timeline, so it's okay.
Yeah, honestly, in my family, it's kind of mixed. Some people doing what they're doing, some people single, you never know. But my last thing about what I don't like about today's dating culture is dating apps and this thing called the paradox of choice, which I feel like is very prevalent in the dating app world. And I feel like, and if you don't know what that means, I got this quote off Google and it says, while we consider variety as a good thing, it also makes our decision making more challenging. So basically, that just means like sticking to one person on a dating app and being loyal, which I don't know how you would be, quote unquote, like loyal. Depending on, see, this is what I be saying. Like, if you're talking to someone, a situationship, like, is talking to someone else, like, what does that look like? But, anyways, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I just feel like the dating app culture is just like so many people, first of all. And it's like, I don't know. It can just, I feel like from both sides it can be hard to just narrow down on one choice. And I feel like sometimes you just see people are like, oh, I really like this one person, but is there better? I feel like there's this thing about someone could always be better, which I guess can technically be true, but it's like, but who's really meant for you at the end of the day? And I just feel like the amount of choices really gets to people and they think they have more choices than they really do. And then they end up dissatisfied because they thought having more choices would be more beneficial than it actually is.
And then especially with, like, how many dating apps there are, like, if you're on multiple dating apps, you're swiping on multiple people on the daily. So I feel like you yourself are, like, building expectations of, like, what quote unquote, like, perfect is or, like, what the perfect person is for you. So, if you're like, "Oh, that person, like, we're vibing, whatever," but then you're like, "Oh, but then that other person had that other trait." Like, you're kinda building all these other expectations that I don't wanna say are unattainable because they totally could be attainable, but most of the time, I feel like those expectations are based more on, like, physical things rather than, like, an intimate connection. But now we're going to get into our next thing. So we've talked about our background, we've talked about the past, the present, all the misconceptions, the negatives, the positives. We have gone into this topic in detail. And now we're going to go into what we're expecting for what we are looking for in a relationship and the like male whatever. So I think we can break it up. We can do a little what we're expecting in the relationship and then what we're expecting for like the partner. So Kennedy, you can start with with whichever one you want. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I'll first start with like the actual person themselves and just like I guess like their looks and the personality traits and characteristics that I personally find myself drawn to. The way I like truly just did a whole bunch. So bear with me. So the first thing when it comes to physical, okay, I feel like our other friends, if they were happen to listen, they would be like, okay, girl. But I feel like I really don't have a specific physical type, which some people might be like that's debatable if you know me, but I do have like some features that like are common. I feel like I think overall I like dark features, so like dark eyes, dark hair, well mostly dark hair, because I feel like there's some people that I think are really cute and they have dark hair but they have light eyes, so I don't know. So but dark hair for sure, dark eyes, and just like a clean look, very clean, very like hygienic looking, like he doesn't look like he stinks. Is built well and a good height. I'm not one of those people because I'm 5'3". I'm not one of those people that's like I need my man to be 6'3", but like I feel like 5'9" would be the minimum for me.
I'd say for me, definitely taller than me. And I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like if I see someone who's shorter than me, I completely knock them off the list or something. All these things aren't like deal breakers. I just want to point that out there, but preferably taller than me. And for those of you who don't know me, you're probably like, oh my gosh, here comes this girl with these high expectations. I'm not even tall, y'all. I'm literally like 5'2", 5'3", and 5'3" is pushing it. It's debatable. So I'm really not asking for much. Just taller than me, you know? I'm not saying you gotta be taller than me if I have heels or not. Just taller than me on a normal basis. But like I said, I can compromise. Um, the hair. You know, I don't wanna say I have okay, if you look at my celebrity crushes, they all have brown, like, curly hair. I'm not saying that that's the only thing. I'm saying, like, I feel like hair in general is like when you're asked, like, "Oh, what's the first thing you look at?" And some people are like, "Oh, the smile, the teeth." For me, I think hair is one of the, like, top 3 things that I look at. So, like, if I see him with, like, greasy, tangled hair, that's just a turn off for me. Like, I need well-groomed looking hair. Like, I'm not saying you gotta, like, slick it back like, what's that one movie, The Outsiders? Like, in that movie, but just well-groomed, you know? And I also do have some celebrity crushes that have buzz cuts, like, it doesn't have to be the brown curls, I promise you guys, I'm not too picky. Um, Going off Kennedy, clean and well groomed. That is such a big one. Like, I feel like when the first impression really speaks volumes. Like, if I see you and you're like, you look dirty, like you haven't showered in a couple days, like, I feel like that's just gonna carry on into the relationship. And me personally, I just can't do that. I'm very like specific about, like, being clean and, like, smelling clean and everything, so you just gotta be well groomed. I'm not asking for you to do anything crazy, just well groomed, which I feel like is what society asks of you anyway, so that shouldn't be difficult. And then another plus is if they speak another language or are open to learning new cultures. So, if you don't know me, I am I can't even speak. I am like Mexican American, so I speak Spanish. I have like the Mexican culture and everything. So that's like super, super important to me. And I'm not saying like you have to be Mexican or like you have to speak Spanish. No, 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 no. I'm just saying you have to be open to learning about the new culture and like you're not gonna be like if I'm eating something, you're not gonna be like, oh, I don't want to try that, you know? Like you have to be open to it, you know? It's not too much to ask for. And then I would also yeah, that's all I gotta say for the physical. Although I feel like the language thing wasn't too much physical, but that's what I gotta say.
Nah, I like how you brought up the language because I think that's a good point. If you're gonna be dating someone who doesn't speak the same language as you, I feel like it's important though to like learn a decent amount because I've heard about this concept on social media where it's like, okay, so I'm just gonna say like English, like you speak English. Okay, so like there's them when they're speaking English, but there's also another part of them when they're speaking their other language. So for you, Spanish. So it's like I feel like in order to really encapsulate the full of someone, like you should learn another language and or learn their native language to really, fully connect with them and like their family members if it gets that far. And I feel like it's always important to embrace other people's cultures.
Never heard of that concept before, but, like, it makes so much sense because there's, like I feel like my voice even sounds different when I'm speaking Spanish and everything, like, there's just a different, like, way that you talk and, like, slang that you use. I feel like the slang that you use really shows you, like, a lot about that person, so, like, just being able to, like, understand a little bit of it definitely, like, lets you know another side of that person. Dang, I never heard that concept before, Kennedy. Look at you, informing me.
I should be a like relationship doctor or something for real. Like, thank you, internet. Since we just talked about language and stuff, it would be good to get into our more like obviously not physical. What's the word?
I would say I don't like the not surface level stuff. I can't think of another word.
Yeah, like their characteristics. I think that's what I was trying to say. But yeah, so I didn't write this down, but I like what Liz said about the openness to culture because if you don't know me or you can't tell by my voice, I'm African American and I feel like being black in America or just even like a minority in general is like a whole experience as a whole another culture. So I feel like my partner, if they weren't black, then I would really it would be like non-negotiable for them to like understand what it's like to be black in America and just I guess you can say like my culture. I don't listen. I don't want to start no wars with no Africans if they listen. So yeah, just the African American culture in America. Hint America. And so first Family Guy, which I kind of like I like kind of alluded to this because earlier I had an epiphany about how I feel like what me and Liz will want in someone makes sense as why we like men like from other countries because other countries cultures value these things and I feel like other cultures definitely value family and like togetherness than like America, because America is a very like individual. Oh my god,
Individualistic.
yes, that word, culture. Learned about this in marketing. So I just really want them to be a family guy. I mean, that's obviously not like 100%, because some people don't come from the best families, but if he does come from a good family, I would like for him to be a family guy. I would like him to be funny, of course, because I feel like I make people laugh, so I want someone to make me laugh, and I just want me and my man to laugh together, of course. I want someone that matches my energy. I don't really know what my energy is. I feel like sometimes I can be very chill, and then sometimes I can be kind of a lot. So I just need someone who can handle that, but then also handle like my more chill um aspect of my personality. They just have to be passionate about something. It can literally be anything. It can literally be reading, rocks, whatever, a sport. I don't care. Literally something, cuz I think it's always important to have your own hobbies, things you're passionate about, everything like that. Has goals, is empathetic. I don't need someone that ain't got no emotions. So okay, wow. As I keep looking at this list, I'm like, wow, maybe I do have high standards, but who cares?
But
Um,
I feel like it's just the bare minimum, like, you know? I don't know. I think it's the bare minimum.
Low key, or not low key, high key, right? I'm just letting society get into my head. I swear I'm almost done though with my list. Um, does not have to be the center of attention, because I don't think I would ever date someone who's like 100% extrovert. Like, that would not work for me. They would actually get on my nerves. A good balance of going out and being a homebody, being supportive, because I feel like everyone would be surprised the amount of stories I've seen on social media of people's boyfriends who literally hate them and don't support anything they do, which I just think is really weird. Get along with my friends and family, but specifically by family, I would say like my parents and my brother, and obviously like my friend group. I would want him. I mean, they don't gotta be besties, but like, get along. And then someone that is comfortable in silence. Because sometimes I just want to be in silence with no one talking. Is communicative, thoughtful, and smart.
It's not that long of a list. So now I'm gonna get into my list. So some of these kind of go off Kennedy's too a little bit, but I would say it's very important for them to be like a familial person, and by familial, because I feel like I'm saying that word wrong. I mean like family, like a family person type thing. Because like my family, and that like the same thing with like my friends. I consider them my family too. Like it's important for them to have a good relationship with them, but also to just have like, be that kind of person who will also carry that energy with like the new friendships and like family that we like make or whatever. But just like a familial person. I need them to be a good listener. Sometimes if you've been listening to the podcast, I just be going on like little tangents and like I lose where I'm going. I just need to sometimes speak words out in order for me to comprehend. So I just need him to listen to me, even if he's like not gonna give me advice or anything. It just helps me feel heard. And then in my head, I end up figuring out what I need to do. So I just need him to be a good listener. And then that also goes with like, I don't know, my favorite thing in books is when the person what's it called? Like an act of service where the guy like remembers something and then like he goes out of his way and does something. And that goes back to being a good listener. Like you have to be a good listener and like truly not just sit there and hear what I'm saying, but like take it in. I would also say my next one is just being communicative. We need to discuss things. If something is bothering you, I'm gonna need you to tell me because I can't read your mind. Even if we're together, we're still independent people. But we need to be able to like talk about anything and everything, even like the uncomfortable things, the awkward things, the things that we disagree on, because it's okay to disagree. We just need to be able to talk about everything. I would say doesn't have to be up and going 24/7. Like they're okay with like being a homebody for one day or like going out one day or just like sitting in silence and doing our own thing, like I don't know, me be reading and him doing his own thing or something, just like being okay with not being like up and going out and doing everything back to back to back because my social battery cannot take that. My next thing is being a hard worker. This is like a quality that I admire of like my parents. They're hard workers and everything. Like I'm gonna need him to like get up and do things like don't expect me to be doing everything around the house. Like, no, I'm gonna need you to put in some work too. You have 2 hands and 2 legs. Hopefully you do. If you don't, you can still move around and do things. Um, the next one I put hold the same values as me. I couldn't think of like all of the values that I hold or like specific values that I hold, but I feel like if we have the same values and morals, like that's really, really important to me because then I feel like it'll be easier to like navigate through things and they don't have to be the same, but like similar in a way. Then my next one is this is kind of specific, but I put will sit with me and watch TV. Like sometimes I just like a little company, when I'm doing my little Disney Channel rerun watching Tangled and Princess and the Frog, I need him to be able to sit down and watch those movies with me. Um, primarily starstruck, if you know, you know. If he can sing along, that's just an added bonus. Uh, my next one is independent. I need him to not depend on me. We are two individuals who come together, but we still have our individual lives. So I can't have him depending on me for everything. So I'm gonna need him to be a little independent and we can depend on each other when we need to. And then I put pushes me outside my comfort zone and to do more. And this goes vice versa. Like I want to be able to push him to do more and I want him to be able to push me and like challenge me. I find that, like, in my friendships and in my family relationships, my, like, parents, my siblings, like, my best friends, they all push me to be, like, the better version of myself, which can sound kinda cheesy, but, like, really it's not, like, I wanna be able to, like, challenge each other and push each other, because together, we will be, like, better people, so, yeah, those are my little things that I put down.
Y'all, Liz, that whole list A, like listing, yes, of course. Literally, our friend group's group chat name is D1 Yappers. Like we are all yappers, so having someone to listen to us is literally just it's up there on the list. And then I liked how you said we'll watch movies and TV shows. If y'all haven't been able to tell, we're obviously media girlies. We love our TV shows. We love our movies. As you can tell by our what we are watching segment, and I just think that would be perfect. And also another one I just thought of is he can listen to your music with you. I feel like that's very important too.
My gosh, like, both of you sitting in the car and, like, both of your playlists playing, even though they're completely different things, but you're, like, vibing? Anyways.
And then I had one more like little section about what I would want out of like the actual relationship. But I will say there's this really good podcast episode I'm gonna recommend. Even though I literally could not relate. There's this podcast called Note by Self by Peyton something. And if you search up like Morgan Riddle, listen to the Morgan Riddle episode because they kind of talk about like her relationship and the things that she likes. And I feel like me and her, we have very similar ticks. So go listen to that if you want to like hear about, long distance relationships and stuff like that.
I'm gonna need you to send me that link, Kennedy, so I can download ASAP, please.
OMG, wait, that's actually like really good. You can download some podcasts and listen on your flight.
Yeah, go ahead and send me all the ones you got.
Oh, girl, I got you. Low key, should I just make you like a playlist on Spotify?
Honestly, go ahead and do that. That would be great.
Trust, I will. Um, but to get back on topic real quick. So honestly, I was like a little short because I was like, honestly, I don't know. Um, but one, I want us to have our own separate lives. So I was just thinking of this more like I'm just envisioning like me and my boyfriend living together. And it's like I like the concept of like, okay, we wake up together and then we just like do our own things for the day, and then at the end of the day we come together, or like during the day like we check up with each other. Like I just like don't want to be like with them 24/7. I know some people like really want that in a relationship, but I just want us to have our own separate lives because I feel like when you're together 24/7, that just I don't know, I don't really know if that's necessarily the healthiest for a relationship. And especially for me, I like my alone time. So like us having our own separate lives, I get my alone time, which allows me to like recharge separately so I can like be my best self when I'm with um my Ew, I'm like saying like my me, I don't even got that, but y'all know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, having our own separate lives is like a must, and that also goes into having our own separate hobbies, interests, etc. Obviously, we can have shared hobbies. I think that's like normal when you get in a relationship. You'll probably like form things you like to do together, but like kind of how Liz said earlier, like oh like she can be reading and then he could be doing something else. Like I really like that because sometimes you just want to be in the presence of each other, but not doing the same thing. And then I said, come together at the end of the day. I don't know. I just like really like that concept of just, coming together, ending the day together. And then my last one is travel together. I will never be a solo travel person, but I do just want to travel with someone, experience the world with someone, and just honestly just build a life with someone. So yeah, those are my ending thoughts on that.
I have, like, basically the exact same ending thoughts as Kenny, so Imma just go off hers and then add something if I have anything to say. But, one thing that stuck out to me was when she was saying about, like, together, like, being enjoying each other's company, and, like, I was just thinking back, like, our, like, group chat, like, our best friends and everything, we be doing this, like, it's okay to be together, but we're both, like, on our own TikTok or something, or, like, doing our own thing on our phones, and it's not awkward or anything, it's just, like, in each other's company or, like, someone will, like, "Oh, like, this came up," and show the other one, and then you'll laugh or whatever, and then go back to doing your own thing. Like, just enjoying the company, I think that that would be so perfect, like, just, doing your own thing, but you're together, which is what matters, like, you're both supporting each other in that way. You don't have to be doing the exact same thing. The traveling, me personally, I think I can be a solo traveler, but the traveling together, like, there's these YouTubers that we be watching, and they have, like, travel vlogs or whatever, and then the partners with them and, like, taking pictures and, like, doing their both own thing and doing things together, and I think it's, like, so cute, like, you're both, like, getting to know new places and making memories together, so that will definitely be one of my things, like, we have to be taking at least 1 trip a year together, like, that's the minimum, and I feel like, honestly, that's not a hard ask, like, I feel like they would enjoy travel. If they don't like travel, it's not gonna work out, unfortunately. It's not gonna work out for me. And then I also like the concept that Kenny brought up of having your own separate lives. Like, we do not need to be having the exact same friends, like, and we can have our alone time. You can go out with your friends, I can go out with my friends, and, like, come together, and you can, like I'm not saying hide who your friends are. That's a no-no, that's a red flag. But, like, I don't care if you go out with your friends or whatever, and then we can, like, talk about what y'all did and everything, like, having your independent thing together, because at the end of the day, you're your own individual, You might be together, but that doesn't mean you're glued at the hip and everything.
Yeah, honestly, the dream would be we all like imagine like us and our partners, and we go on like a group vacay. I think that would be super cute, just like the Florida girl.
Manifesting for us right now, Kennedy. We are putting out into the universe. We're gonna go back and listen to this podcast episode and be like, "Dang, everything we said came true."
No, because I was thinking, I was like, imagine like me and Liz, we get boyfriends that are literally like exactly what we said, and then we're like, oh wait, we literally put this out into the world. So this episode idea may just be kind of like low key us manifesting on the low, but using it as an excuse.
Just mind your business, Let us do what we do. Moral of the story, you guys, don't settle. If it comes true for me and Kennedy, don't settle. We told you. You heard it here, loud and clear.
Yes, and I'm gonna put this out there again. Our men are just not in America, even though our friend try to call us the Lulu, but we not. I swear.
Yeah, you know who you are. The one who be driving. Anyways, anything else you have to add on the topic, Kennedy?
Nope, but looking at this time, it's a good thing we put this into 2 episodes.
And that is all we have to say about our thoughts on relationships as the single girlies in the group. We hope that you guys really enjoyed this episode. Honestly, it was kind of therapeutic. So it was more for us than it was for you. You're just a little added bonus if you're listening to it. If you made it to part two, we definitely have a lot more to talk about this topic. I feel like there were some things that we just didn't go into detail. So if you want to hear more, please comment, let us know. Let us know on the social medias and everything. Make sure that you give us a 5-star rating. Yeah, I think it's a 5-star rating or review on Spotify, and that you add us on your Apple Music and all that kind of stuff, and more importantly, follow us on Instagram. You know you want to. Kennedy be killing it with the graphics, so go show some support and some love. Thank you guys so much for listening.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.